Hi friends, so I came across a most extraordinary thing last night when I was visiting Ben Norton's page. He's an independent journalist and he always has very interesting posts on his page. And there was an excerpt from a court case that's proceeding at the moment. It comes from an article online called "Teen Activists Face U.S. Government in Crucial Hearing Over Climate Trial." The suit accuses the federal government of violating young people's constitutional rights by contributing to the climate crisis. And it's by Lee Vandervoo in Oregon. So 21 youth activists faced off with the U.S. government in Oregon courthouse on Tuesday, where their attorneys petitioned a panel of judges to let their climate case go to trial. Until it does, their attorneys argued fossil fuel development should be halted on public lands. The case of Juliana versus the US charges the federal government with violating constitutional rights of youth by perpetuating systems that contribute to climate breakdown. Those young people, who range in age from 11 to 23 and hail from all corners of the nation, argue that the Constitution gives them and future generations a right to an environment free of climate catastrophe. So you can read that article, and I'll leave it in the information section of this video. But the reason this is probably one of the most shocking, what the US government, the attorneys for the US government say in response to this court case, is really shocking. And I'm going to show you the meme now. I mean, it's so shocking it actually goes beyond. If you've seen my video where Noam Chomsky on the Ralph Nader NewsHour sort of talks about how Trump, the Transport Department, basically put out this memo 2 or 3 months ago now, saying that what's the point in actually addressing all the climate, the emissions, transport emissions, because we're all done for anyway. It's all over with at the end, the end of the century. What's the point in doing that? It's even more shocking than this. So I'm going to read you what these U.S. attorneys say. And by the way, one of them is his name is Jeffrey Clark, and he's about 52 years old, and he was with the Bush administration, and he's actually Attorney General for, I think, the environment at the moment, and he's been arguing for at least a couple of decades now against doing anything to address climate change. Okay, so anyway, here is what the US government said in response to these teen activists' court challenge. The US government has not disputed that climate breakdown is real, or that an environment crisis looms. And this isn't a quote, but this is basically what they said. The US government has not disputed the climate breakdown is real, or that an environmental crisis looms. In fact, government experts generally agree with the plaintiffs' experts on the science. Government attorneys have instead argued that the court does not have the legal authority to tell the federal government what to do about climate change, and that the trial would be too burdensome. Now this is the next sentence is really amazing. This may be probably the most shocking thing you will hear this year, or possibly the most shocking thing you've heard in a while. They have also argued that Americans do not have a right to, quote, a climate capable of sustaining human life, end quote. I'll read that again. They have also argued that Americans do not have a right to, quote, a climate capable of sustaining human life, end quote. So basically, they're not only telling U.S. citizens and these young activists that you have no future and we do not see any reason, or you don't have any right basically to life on this planet, to a survivable environment, but they're telling the rest of the world that as well, because it's not just the United States that is affected by this. And since the Western countries are the biggest polluters on the planet, and in particular the United States with its military-industrial complex, which is the greatest user of fossil fuels. I think it's a massive user of fossil fuels, and so forth. And the environmental destruction that they wreak in every base that they have, they do all sorts of awful things and poison the groundwater with their fire retardants that they use just, it's just insane what they do. There's a whole bunch of stuff, including, I could list a whole long thing as long as your arm about all the, just the environmental problems with the military-industrial complex. But, all the corporations and all of that, the United States is, as far as environmental protections, they're actually undoing it all. Trump has been undoing it all. They weren't that great in the first place. Anyway, so what basically we're being told by the US in this court case is that we are all fucked, basically. We're all, toast. Even if, if you watch this channel, you know that my assessment of the situation of the science since at least 2013 has been that we are finished. It's just a matter of, it could be 2050, it could be 2060, it won't be at the end of the century, and it won't be our children's children, it will be us. We will be the ones that will probably see our own imminent extinction. So, I talked about that before, and I'm not, this isn't about any sort of conspiracy thing or anything that's, or trying to be shocking. I'm just being realistic. And I don't believe in putting out hopium to people. I don't believe in putting out false hope, but I also don't believe in just rolling over and, if we don't continue to do what we can. For example, I'm vegan. I encourage other people to go vegan. Particularly in that case, I say that because as you can see very clearly, the governments and parties like the Democratic Party, who have actually recently been trying to stifle any debate about the climate crisis, and telling other members you're not allowed to have any debates about it as well. There's pushback about that, but that's what the DNC has been telling people, trying to block any debates and saying you'll be blacklisted if you debate the climate crisis. So that's the Democratic Party. The GOP is like that, and these are the two major parties that rule this, who are very similar, who rule the United States. And we are all recipients of those dreadful laws and their military invasions, their imperialism, threatening war with all sorts of countries that aren't submitting to them and so forth. And threatening to, and also, recently Pompeo saying that the United States is going to do its best to prevent Jeremy Corbyn from becoming the Prime Minister, that sort of thing. So, we have some major forces, and that's what that is telling us, that they have no intentions at all, and do not have any intentions to do anything, not only to curb what's happening. Not only that, they're not going to stop what's happening, and they're not even going to curb it. In fact, they're going the other way. They're going to put the foot on the accelerator, basically, because that's what they've been doing. That's what they've been doing, and that's why Trump has been removing all these environmental protections, so that corporations can just go for it, and we have an ecocide on our hands. Of course, we're living on this planet, so we're part of the sixth mass extinction that's taking place right now. What I'm saying to you, too, is that I've been aware that this is, that it's sort of all over for us, because even if we stopped everything now, it would still have, it has its own propulsion now. And what is baked in now is a 3-degree increase, 3 degrees Celsius, and all the ice is melting, and the ice will eventually melt in the polar caps. 90% of the warmth has gone into the oceans now, and eventually, it's just sort of like a whole series of exponential events in a positive feedback loops happening, and it's spiraling out of control. But as I say, I encourage people to go vegan, because, as you can see, nobody's going to really do anything of any significance. The major contributor to, one of the major contributors to climate change is not going to do anything. And they're going and looking for wars over oil, like they're doing in Venezuela, because it has the largest oil reserves on the planet at this point. And then they're going after Iran and trying to have a war with Iran too, because Iran has the 4th largest oil reserves and also is an enemy. Israel considers Iran an enemy, and they want, Israel wants, to see the end of Iran. And don't get me started about how that stupid son-in-law Donald Trump has been selling nuclear secrets to the Saudis, and eventually the Saudi family, that absolute brutal monarchy in Saudi Arabia, will have the ability to use nuclear weapons on, either Iran, or who knows, they could decide that the US is no longer somebody to, an ally anymore, and decide to just blow them up. Forget about 9/11. It'll make 9/11 look like a mosquito bite. I mean, these are all things that could happen. You know what I mean? So I could say that. When I say this is shocking, reading that, it's shocking in that, I already knew that they're going the other way and they don't care. But to actually say something like that the people on the planet, it's not just Americans, people on the planet do not have a right to survive, do not have a right to have a survivable environment. Basically, do not have the right to exist on the planet that we were born on. It is a truly astounding statement, from sort of, this is psychopathic sort of stuff. And of course, this sort of psychopathy, if you can call it that, this sort of deranged kind of, sort of genocidal kind of thinking is being displayed all the time in all their actions, whether it's their warmongering or this sort of thing, undoing environmental protections, constantly. This is, the US empire is sort of really will be, is basically in the center of becoming the end of everything. So anyway, I had a sort of a grieving thing about this in 2013 when I realized, when looking at the science and hearing different people, realizing that, it really is a, if everything even stopped tomorrow, it has its own propulsion and it's kind of too late. And then you read about, that I saw Chris Hedges' End of Ice recently, which just sort of really confirmed it, speaking to Dahr Jamail about the end of ice, and how that will bake in a 3 degrees now. And 3 degrees, 2 degrees was bad. It was bad for all of us. It was not good at all. It was disastrous. 3 degrees, and this is just the beginning. 3 degrees is baked in now, and it just keeps going, and it'll probably be 5 to 8 degrees. And it won't be about being at the end of the century, and it won't be about your children's children. It's about you and I. And that's why I keep saying to people, go vegan firstly for non-human animals, because they have the right to exist. They're not resources, they're not property, they're not things. They have the right to exist on this planet. And firstly, they have the right not to be used as food, clothing, entertainment, and other reasons. And then they have the right to have their planet left alone by us. We're constantly destroying everything about their planet. And now 200 species are going extinct every day. And every single day, 200 million plus land animals are tortured and killed for completely trivial reasons and mostly palate pleasure. And then you've got more than that. You've got sort of hundreds of millions of aquatic animals every single day are tortured and killed for mostly palate pleasure. We don't need these animal products to survive. We can easily meet all our nutrition requirements from plants and other non-animal sources. And this is sadly something that a lot of, all green groups ignore. It is also something that a lot of people on the left ignore, because they think, oh, well, if we address all these other things, which basically are reliant on these insane corporations, these psychopathic corporations and unhinged attorney generals that have been arguing against doing anything and addressing climate change and that kind of thing. We're reliant on them to do something. And yes, it's all very good to take people to court. I think it's very important what people are doing. There's a lot of court cases now worldwide, but there's about 650 in the United States. But I mean, we also can do something right now. And I find it really bizarre that people want to pretend like that. I've shown you those memes. I'll show you them again. The largest study to date, 114 countries, 40,000 farms from farm to fork, 90% of all the foods that are eaten, and the outcome, the conclusion of that study, that largest study to date, is that a vegan diet is the best thing that one can do, the single most important action one can take to address not only the climate crisis, but eutrophication, acidification, the destructions of the rainforests and all of that, the water resource shortages and all of that, everything that climate crisis involves, and sixth mass extinction. That is a major cause of the sixth mass extinction, animal agriculture, and you will not see it. People don't mention it. I find this extraordinary. Here we are on the brink of extinction. Oh, here's Nandi. He's wearing his Bird Be Safe collar. No, we don't like to dress up our cats. Well, here we are on the brink of extinction, and people are still holding on to these traditions and habits of animal products that are not only killing the planet and killing hundreds of billions of animals and destroying the oceans and rainforests and all of that, all the things that climate crisis entails, all of that. Even people on the left who call themselves, who see themselves as, they wring their hands about the climate crisis, they would wring their hands about that, what I'm talking about today, but won't go vegan. And I just that's why sometimes I keep saying this, but I really think we're too stupid to live as a species. We cannot organize ourselves out of a paper bag. We can't even say, okay, I can go vegan right now. It doesn't rely on these corporations. It doesn't rely on my parents or my family or anybody. I can go vegan right now. We can do it. If we're not vegan, we can do it right now, and it doesn't rely on the permission of anybody. And it has nothing to do with capitalism, And by the way, capitalism isn't causing animal agriculture. We're causing animal agriculture. Capitalism, if everybody went vegan, they'd start producing vegan products, which is what is happening right now, because there's millions of vegans on the planet, but there's not enough. Capitalism always finds a niche. If everybody started demanding plant-based products, you don't need pre-made plant-based products, right? But, if you want to eat those pre-made things, okay. But they are already producing. Companies are seeing that there's more vegans on the planet. It's all about demand and supply. And we create demand for animal products. We create demand for all of this terrible destruction of life and climate refugees and 1 trillion plus land and aquatic animals every year. Destruction of the oceans. Watch Cowspiracy. It's coming. It hasn't been released yet, but watch it. See what we're doing to the oceans because we eat aquatic animals. So, we are responsible for a lot of destruction, and we're pretending like it's not happening. I talk about this, and I'm sorry if people find this a bit ho-hum and think, oh, I don't want to listen to this. This is confronting, and you're full of, it's fake science and all of this. No, it's not. It's actually not fake science. This is real science. That study, the largest study to date, is real. It's science-based. It's a scientific study in the Journal of Science. It's not some made-up thing by vegans. You know what I'm saying? It's not some made-up thing. It's real. So if you embrace science most of the time, but you don't want to embrace this and call it fake because it's inconvenient, what does that say about you? So yeah, we can do, the Extinction Rebellion, which also ignores veganism, but, you can do, I think at this point now, non-violent civil disobedience is definitely the way to go. This yellow vest thing, non-violent civil disobedience, like Chris Hedges, the Pulitzer Prize recipient, said, we need to, at this point, break the machine. The time for, appealing to their better ethics or whatever, which they don't have, is over. Letter writing and all this kind of thing. It's time to break the machine in non-violent civil disobedience. I don't know if anybody can organize themselves to do this, though. And they have such a powerful militarized police and all of that, because they've been preparing for this breakdown of social, breakdown of society, basically, because people realize, and are realizing quite quickly, that the major powers, but mostly centered in the West, have no intentions of doing anything to address this life-threatening issue for all of us. No intentions. That's very clear. That's why, and I don't know why people keep voting for these people. I really don't. You know, I mean, anybody who is not fully on board with that and is sort of moving completely away from fossil fuels and stuff and is trying to develop things in a hurry. We don't have time, you know. 10 years is too long. We really do. Some people say 2 years. You've got 2 years to sort it out. You know, I said to somebody last night, we were I showed this person last night this, you know, that image about what the US has said in this court case. And I said, you know, sometimes, you know, it's hard to, you know, you're going along in your daily stuff that you're doing, your activism, and meanwhile there's this cloud of imminent extinction with nobody doing really anything about it. And then I have the added extra fun of knowing that most of the people I know who are otherwise very intelligent pretend that going vegan is just something we can do down the track, maybe, you know, 40 years or something down the track. Or they don't even see that, they won't even watch any of my fucking videos or want to even talk properly about it because they don't want their way of life, they don't want their habits and traditions and conveniences interfered with. Their habits and pleasures are more important than addressing this issue. We can do something right now significant addressing this issue by going vegan, and it makes me very sad, you know, because it just confirms to me that we really in many ways are too stupid to live. We're just little hairless animals that have a technological bent, but we don't have any wisdom, and we go along with the herd, and we like our little creature comforts literally, and we can't organize ourselves out of a paper bag. Ultimately, we are just animals, and we can't get it together, and we're just going to be a little blip on the radar on this planet. We're going to be come and gone in, you know, in a short period of time in the history of this planet's existence. Just a little tiny blip. And eventually there'll be nothing left of us. There won't be any pyramids left. Even the plastic will all be vanished. There will be no sign of us. And this planet will be completely different, but it will have new life due to bacteria's, you know, evolving, and there'll be a whole different kind of life on this planet. And hopefully, and I say this without a hint of misanthropy, hopefully we as a species will never be seen again on this planet, because I do not believe at this point that we have the ethics, the ability to develop enough ethics to treat one another in a kind and just way, just going by how we've been since we've been on this planet. I don't see it, and I think there'll be always greedy, selfish people like the ones that we have ruling us now, who will float to the top like shit, basically, I'm sorry to say. Will always get to the top, and it will always end up becoming like it is right now in some way. You know, if we continue on, it's always going to be a shit fest. I'm sorry to sound so, you know, pessimistic, but I just, you know, this is, you know, you watch the patterns over time, and, you know, I've had friends involved in environmental struggles and stuff since the 80s, and they said, you know, my partner in particular said, you know, the government knew about the problems with the whole climate crisis, and you know, they knew back in the 80s, they knew they had to do something, and they did nothing. It wasn't through lack of information, through lack of science, that they did nothing. They just chose to do nothing. And you know, these fossil fuel industries knew back in the 50s and 60s that this was going to happen, and they suppressed all of that. You know, they knew about this 60, 70 years ago, and they suppressed it all. And those people who did all that, they're dead now. They didn't have to worry. And they don't even care, obviously, about their children or their children's children. And oddly enough, the people in the different administrations in the US don't seem to care about their own children or their children's children either. They don't. I think they think they're going to be able to hide out in some bunker somewhere. That's funny. You're going to hide out in a bunker for, you know, like 40,000 or a million years? Because that's how long it's going to take for things to sort themselves out in some way. And even then, who knows how it will be on the surface. It's ridiculous. You know, they think that they're going to be able to wait this out while the rest of us die. This is how this is how sort of, you know, this is how sort of unhinged these people are, that they think that they can wait this out in bunkers or in some country. So anyway, I didn't mean to get into this sort of rant about imminent extinction, but I mean, it's hard not to when you see crap like that, you know? And you know, like I say, sometimes it's like being in a nightmare that you can't wake up from because it's real, or it's like being in one of those, you know, sort of those movies, like one of those crazy movies, except that it's real. And it's always hanging. Anybody who's really aware of how messed up it is and how sort of unlikely there is to be anything beyond, say, 250, 260, 2060, 2050. It's hard really to, you know, you can go on with your daily lives and stuff, but in the back of your mind, there's this thing, you know, that all of this, you know what I mean? All of this is going on, and eventually, you know, in our lifetime, you and I, we could be looking at starvation. And that's not hyperbole to say that, that's not an exaggeration. You know, when climate gets really, really unstable and it's all over the place, too hot, too wet, da-da-da-da-da. Agriculture, you know, plants don't grow, and if plants don't grow, you're not going to have any animals. If people think they're going to be able to continue eating animal products at this rate, in fact, you know, if you've watched that On Contact with Chris Hedges, where he talks about how animal agriculture is not going to be able to supply the food for the planet by 2050. You know, there's not enough animal agriculture to supply feeding the planet. So that's why that's one reason why we have to move away from animal agriculture and adopt a plant-based diet. And I've sort of indicated to you why that is through those memes, the largest study to date, where there's been huge amounts of land left. And you wouldn't even need those huge amounts of lands that is used for animal agriculture to feed the planet already. Like, we could feed the whole planet with a plant-based diet, and we'd be addressing climate change significantly. And even if imminent extinction is on the horizon, at least we are able to do something, and it also involves the end of torturing and killing of these sentient animals whose only crime is that they are another species. You know, we can do that. How great is that? And we can address all these other things, and we can be healthier too. Because animal products are killing people in the amounts they're eating them. There's millions of people now dying every year related to animal product consumption. In fact, and just recently there's been a huge study about fiber, and they've said that you know, people don't eat enough fiber, and that's another reason why there's all these illnesses. And in fact, U.S. citizens don't even get the lower amounts of fiber required. That's why, you know, there's so many people with cardiac disease and diabetes and so forth. And that's because people are eating animal products, and they're eating low-carb diets, which usually means they're eating lots and lots of animal protein, which actually destroys your kidney and destroys your colon. The ammonia in you know, animal protein literally just breaks down your kidneys, and it also you know, it breaks down in your colon. It breaks down your colon. It doesn't belong in there. We have long intestines that are meant to digest plant material. You know, cats have very short intestines because they're eating mostly animal protein. So, you know, check out nutritionfacts.org and you'll find out the horror story that is animal products. So anyway, please check out my website, howtogovegan.org. It's a comprehensive vegan resource in podcast form. And I think you'll find it internalizing the ethical position, which is what veganism is essential to be a long-term vegan. Anybody who says they're an ex-vegan was never vegan, because just like when you're against racism, you don't sort of suddenly, after years of being anti-racist, then suddenly start becoming racist. You probably were never committed to that in the first place. Or if you were against homophobia and then suddenly you say, oh, I'm not against homophobia anymore, and then you start beating up LGBT people and killing them and stuff. I mean, it's just ridiculous. So veganism is an ethical position, and so if you become vegan and you've internalized the ethical position, doesn't matter what circumstances, you are not going to become an ex-vegan. It's just not going to happen. So anyway, that's all I'm going to say. I didn't mean to go down that road, but it just brings me to that. When I see these sort of ecocidal statements and these genocidal statements by the U.S. government, it just takes me down that road. And basically, they're saying it to all of us. It's not just Americans don't have the right to have a livable environment where they can have the right to exist and survive. It's telling all of us that. So what we do with that information is hopefully we become kinder people, more loving and more just, and that we go vegan. That encompasses all of that, and that we continue to, and that we organize and get in and think about non-violent civil disobedience, and also do whatever we can in as many ways as we can to address this. But you can be vegan and you don't need anybody's permission to do that. So thanks so much for watching. My name is Trish Roberts. Please click the like button if you like the content. Please hit the subscribe button and the notifications bell. Otherwise you don't receive updates when I drop a video. I always enjoy reading your comments, and even the ones that disagree with me, as long as you're civil about it. Okay, so thanks for watching. My name is Trish Roberts. You're watching Faint Signals from Vega. Till next time. Bye for now.